Hello, everyone. This is Madeline Dale with the Chapter Goddess, and I have Jason DeGray with me today. We are going to be talking about his book. Jason, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, my name is Jason DeGray, and I'm an author and a book nerd. And I've been writing for forever. Really, I love telling stories, and that's really my passion, I guess. And always, always what I've wanted to do in life was to write books and tell stories, and and to share the worlds in my active imagination with the world, and so this is like I said, what I've set out to do, and what I've been passionate about for like I said, as long as I can remember.
That is awesome. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your books and your book it's Eve, you said, I think, correct?
Yes, yes, Eve. Yes, well, Eve is uh, a sci-fi novel. I started out because I, I love cyberpunk, right? This is probably one of my favorite sci-fi genres is cyberpunk, and so I set out to write a sci-fi novel. I thought I love the genre so much, let's write a book in it, and so that's what I set out to do. And I set out and started writing Eve. Um, However, as usually happens with the stuff that I write, it kind of took on a life of its own and developed and started going off in directions that weren't exactly cyberpunk in the strictest sense of the word. And so it turned into to something that I thought was pretty indescribable. But a reader that read the book had shared her opinion and said that she considers the genre something like a post-apocalyptic noir, and so I thought, wow, I've never heard that. I like that. I'm going to use it, and so that's that's what I tell people. It started out as a cyberpunk, but ended up in a different place. But and that's that's Eve. But I don't really write just in the sci-fi genre. I have some books coming out later this year called The Ruined Man. It's the Ruined Man series, and these are paranormal um, detective fiction type books.
Ooh.
And yeah, and, the first book I ever wrote was a fantasy adventure. I mean, so speculative fiction, that sort of stuff. I bounce around in a lot. I don't like to stay in just one genre. I like to explore
Yeah.
other ones, right? And so that's, and then I'm working on editing the first book in a new series. There's going to be a sci-fi book, but this one is deep space colonies type of sci-fi type of thing. So there's it's not really cyberpunk or anything like that. As far as writing in that vein that Eve is in, or a couple of my novellas that are out there, which are more cyberpunk stuff that take place on Earth. Right. This is I'm taking it to the stars in this next series. So yeah, it's I said, a wide variety of worlds, and I like to explore that. You find new and exciting things whenever you explore different genres and get out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
so that's so that's something that I try to do.
That is exciting. So, what does your writing routine look like? Do you have a certain way or like time of day you write?
Well, I think that I write best in the mornings, but family obligations and things like that kind of has made that difficult. So I write at night, or during the day whenever I can, whenever I get a free moment. That's whenever I write. But the time that's mine that I can just sit down and write is usually later at night. After everybody's gone to bed, and so I do that. And whenever I'm writing that initial draft, the first draft, I actually write on a typewriter.
Mhm.
And I cannot do the initial writing, the initial draft. I can't do it on the computer anymore, just because it's too much of a distraction now. And
I get that.
yeah, yeah, and I came across that problem, and I found that out a few years ago. And I would sit down to write, and I would have Word open, and I'd be sitting there, and I'd type a few words, and then writer's block hit. Oh man, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Well, maybe I'll just shoot on over to YouTube and see if there's anything inspiring on, or and then that led, let me go check Facebook and see
Oh
if there's
yes,
any comments
Facebook.
on the if there's any comments on the posts. And and then 3 hours later, I opened up Word, and and I've gotten one sentence done. And so I was like, man, the other thing, whenever I'd be sitting there and I'd say, okay, I'm I'm not even connecting to the internet. I'm just going to open up Word, and I'm going to sit down and write. This is what I tried first, right? And so I did that. And then I was getting into the habit of I would sit down and write, and I would write a sentence or two or a paragraph, and then I would spend hours tweaking that one paragraph. And
Yeah.
and I said, this is supposed to be the creative part where I'm just getting the story out. And so I I can't do it. So yeah, I found a typewriter on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and sit down, and that's where I do my initial writing. That first draft, that creative burst,
Yeah.
always goes, I sit down and I type it out and just let it flow. And then I take the pages that I've written, and my first edit is the rewrite whenever I'm typing it into Word. And so, and then I spend, um, you know, the rest of the time crafting the story into Word, fleshing out the characters or the plots, or adding scenes or taking them out. And that's really the editing process. And that's when I'll tweak the paragraphs, and spend hours doing that, because at that point I don't feel bad about it, right?
Yeah, you've got the story down. The first draft
Right.
is done. So this is the editing phase. That is a genius idea.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like
So
that.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've been doing mine. I've been handwriting my first draft. Like I've started doing that after I wrote my first couple of books. It just makes the creative process work smoother to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's there's no distraction between you and the process at that point. I mean, whether if you're doing it by hand, or even on even on a typewriter,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. The typewriter's not going to pop up green squiggly lines under everything that
Yes,
you
but like,
write.
oh, what did I spell wrong? No, that's got the
Right.
wrong tense. Yeah, yeah. I get it's. I have to tell myself as I'm typing that, like, first draft, like transferring it to the computer. I'm like, just come back to it later. Let's get this typed out first, and then we'll go back through and edit. Yes. So,
Yep, exactly.
lots and lots
Exactly.
of editing. So, would you
Yeah.
say your stories are more plot driven or character driven?
Oh, I love characters. I mean, they've always been my favorite part of the story, is the characters, and how they interact, and deal with the world and the circumstances that they're in. And because I think that it's the characters that drive the plot, really. And if you have the plot driving the characters, I think in a novel especially, um, then then it runs the risk of the plot getting away from you, and it takes away from uh, you know I found in my own experience trying this, that it takes away from the characters themselves, that they
Mhm.
don't end up as fleshed out as they could have been, because you're not focusing on the characters. You're focusing on, oh well, no, it's the plot, and we have to stick to the plot. And some of my favorite scenes and stuff like that in my books and stories have been ones that the characters didn't do exactly what I I applauded.
Yeah.
Yeah, or reading back through it in an edit, and the character, it's just like totally would not do that, or why don't we do it this way instead? And, oh man, that's much better. I got to rewrite 10 pages, but you but it works out better. So yeah, it really is the characters for me. I really do enjoy letting the characters drive the plot.
That is good. So where did you get the inspiration for this book?
Well, like I said, I love cyberpunk, and I wanted to try to write this cyberpunk novel. Um, but and so a lot of inspiration came from all of the cyberpunk authors and artists and things like that uh, I have been devouring over the years. And so as far as setting up the world and and things like that, but um, um, the inspiration for the characters came from uh, really trying to figure out what would normal people do in abnormal circumstances, and how would they react, how would one of the main characters is Jacob, and how would this guy that's a burnout and has can't get is stuck in his past and can't break out of it, and is really old school type of thinking and stuff like that, how would he handle being put in a situation where you know he was forced to change, he was forced to act, he was forced to grow, and and the kind of conflict that would bring in somebody, because like I said, I love characters, I love people, I love like figuring out why, or how, or what are possibilities that people would do in these circumstances, and what could come out of that, and and really that, like I said, that's what inspires me, and and what drives me for that, to write, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how has the pandemic affected your writing? Has it affected it any in the past year?
um I've gotten more of it done.
More free time. Did it affect your creativity or anything?
Um, no, it actually helped it, because right before this, the pandemic, I was really stuck in this first book of this that I'm editing now,
Mhm.
and I had gotten stuck, and I was like 2/3 of the way done with this book, and had just gotten stuck, and I could not write on it, and I just had thrown my hands up, and then when that happened, um, and other circumstances in my life occurred around that time too, and it uh, uh, was like that creative dam, that wall, was finally able to get past it, because I had time, to get past it, and so it actually did me some favors on the creative end. On the publishing end, I ran into some difficulties, with my uh, Ruined Man series that's coming out. This is actually, it's going to be re-released, because it had been released before back in 2017 with some old publishers, and they just kind of went silent
Uh-oh.
around that time, and couldn't get a hold of these guys or anything like that, and then finally at the beginning of this year, um, they're like, oh yeah, 2020, we're going out of business, so here's your books back. and,
Oh man.
and so yeah, so that was a hiccup for me, as far as like the process and all that type of stuff goes, and kind of jaded me a little bit towards that, which is probably why I think was a big part in my decision to put out Eve under my own label,
Yeah.
was because I had just been burned, and I was like not feeling, you know, putting it out
Yeah.
there for other people to do that with. But it all worked out. I had some other publishers pretty soon after that contact me and was like, hey, uh, if you want to put these out, we want to do it for you. And so I was like, great, and that's cool because I want to focus on what I have coming out, not what I've already done. So
Yeah.
uh,
It's hard to go back and rework all of the stuff you've already worked on. So
yeah, yeah,
that is
yeah.
insane that happened. Oh my gosh. Like I can't even imagine how I would feel if I were in your situation.
Oh no,
Gosh.
it was a horrible feeling. It felt like you know, part of me was being held hostage in a
Yeah.
way. I mean, because it's like there's nothing I can do. Like, I signed this contract, and I'm stuck in it, and they
Mhm.
basically have to give me the books back, and I can't do anything to get them back. And even though they haven't said, or put out a social media post on it, or I mean, yeah, and I mean it was a weird and insane place to be, and but it's a place that taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot about paying attention to who you're getting involved with if you're going a traditional publishing route,
Yeah.
and making sure that you don't just sign a contract that comes across that your desk because you're excited, and actually read it,
Yeah.
and and if you're like, no, I want an out clause or something like that if you guys go out of business, or this kind of thing or that kind of thing. I mean, and really, um, stand up for yourself and your creative rights and process and things like that, because yeah, nobody's going to do it for you. Especially, like I said, if you're doing traditional publishing through the like an indie house or a small press or things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and have taken it on without an agent, um, you know, then especially you need to know what you're doing and know what you're looking for going into it, and and not getting. And if you do find yourself in one of those tough situations, I mean, just reaching down into the pit of your being, and pulling out that strength and tenacity in order to stand up for yourself at that
Yeah.
time, get that back, and not quit until you do. It was so I learned a lot from that process, but going through it was definitely not fun.
It doesn't sound like it. So would you say you prefer one over the other, like one method of publishing over the other after having gone through that?
Well, I mean, like I said, I gave Ruined Man to some new publishers,
Mhm.
and but I learned from it, and I uh, was in a different position going into it this time. But there's pros and cons, I think, to each one. Um, if you go a self-publishing route, um, the creative process is all you,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's all in your hands, and you get all of the royalties too. But one of the downsides to that is the creative process is all you. I
Yeah.
mean, and so when you really start looking at what that entails, I mean, because it's not just writing a book, right? I mean, that's
No, it's not.
right, right. That's the fun part. I mean, it gets to the other parts of the, where you're starting to, have to edit the book down, and I mean, that takes a long time to get to be able to see it from that eye and to see your own work from that type of eye, right?
Yeah.
And so even that is that takes a lot. Then there's formatting the book, then there's coming trying to get the cover and trying to I mean, you're crafting a work of art, and I mean, it is a long and laborious process. And so that's like I said, one of the beauties and one of the struggles, I think, of the self-publishing world is that right there. Whereas if you go traditional, even in a small house, I mean, you're going to have some of that pressure relieved off of you with the book, with the book cover and the formatting and the uh, even the editing and stuff like that. You have a team now. You have other people working with you at this point, right? But you're splitting what you make,
Yeah.
and usually down the middle with these guys, it's 50-50 with most of these small indie houses. I mean, and so there's that, and then you're basically giving away your child at that point. It's like, okay, no, go off into the world, and yeah, these guys are going to take care of you now and do great things, and there's something there, but one of the great things about traditional publishing, even in that even on that small scale, was the because I think one of the things that we look for as artists is validation, right? We
Mhm.
want other to see what we've done and be like, yes, I love what you've done, and that's something that which is why we all bend over backwards, sending query letters off to agents and publishing houses and stuff like that, because that's what we're looking for, right? We're really looking for that somebody else outside of our group to like look in and be like, yeah, I like what you did,
Yeah.
yeah, you're on our team now, and let's go forward with this. I mean, and so that was a really good feeling, and one of the great parts of traditional publishing. But and one of the pitfalls I found in both is just trying to get that readership. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if you got a publishing deal with a big, one of the big five houses and stuff like that, I mean, chances are um, they're not putting money into marketing your book. That's still all on you. That's still
Yeah.
all on you. Okay. I mean, so what? It's in Barnes and Noble. How many books are in Barnes and Noble that you never
A
see?
lot.
Yeah. So that's so it's still all depends on you, and so that is one thing that I've learned about about both worlds, that it doesn't matter, which route you take, that getting your name out there, getting your readership, trying to build an audience. I mean, that that's all on you. And yeah, and it's you that's going to bring in other people, that want to help. But and so you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your biggest fan first, because that spreads and that makes other people
Yep. That is so true.
advocate, and being like, yeah, I'm let me help, type of thing. And that's and that's how it has to start growing. And so but yeah, many years to learn these that lesson.
That is awesome, though. So go ahead and tell our readers where they can find your work.
Okay, well, it's wherever you buy books. You can get it off of Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You can go to your local bookstore and have them special order it, if you wanted to, support local and all that. So that's where it is. I have a website at jasondegray.com, and our Facebook reader group that I'm just getting started. So I'm looking for more people in there, called Weird Worlds. And then I'm on Facebook, and that's really it. I don't Twitter or Instagram much, so those are my spots. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show today. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, guys, make sure you look up his work. He's got some great books out there.